Tonight I'll read Chapter 17, Trapped. Emily didn't understand until she looked ahead, past Longlost's shoulder, and saw the sharp prows of two small, sleek, high-speed pursuit boats edging out from the moored boats on the right-hand bank. Longlost put on a burst of acceleration and caught up with Aaron's pinwheel as they passed the pike boats. Emily looked behind and saw the sleek craft pull out into the channel behind them and start to close the gap. Close behind them were the two patrol boats. "Follow me!" Longlost shouted to Aaron. He nodded. Sam's face was pale and he looked seasick, but he managed to give Emily a weak smile. Longlost had been navigating up the channel as close as she dared to the line of floating stalls that ran down the middle of the canal to avoid the oncoming traffic. Now, however, there were several sirens wailing behind them, and the water taxis and family launches were beginning to pull over in the face of the oncoming armada of wardens, so she took to the open water down the middle of the channel and opened the throttle. Ahead, Emily could see a crossway where another canal cut across Market Crescent. Traffic lights strung between wires attached to the buildings on either side were currently on red, and a stream of boats were crossing in front of them. To Emily's increasing anxiety, Longlost gave no sign that she was going to slow down as they neared the oncoming traffic, and they continued to head towards it at full speed. Glancing behind, Emily realised that the pursuing wardens didn't seem prepared to slow down either. They were 10 seconds away from the crossway and what appeared to be an inevitable collision. Through the traffic, Emily saw more pike boats amongst the traffic waiting at the lights across the way, and a patrol boat lurking in the channel to the right. 5 seconds away, and Longlost twitched the pinwheel slightly to the right, and Emily saw the tiny, moving gap between a water bus and a cargo barge crossing in front of them that she was aiming for. She gripped Longlost tightly and held her breath. As they shot between the stern of the water bus and the prow of the barge, they hit the high, up-rolling wake of the water bus as if it were a ramp, and a wild whoop from Susie, and to Emily's eternal astonishment, the pinwheel bit deep into the swell and then bounced up clean out of the water. It was a moment that Emily would never, ever forget. That extraordinary leap into the air. Time seemed to stop. The widening eyes of the child watching them out of the back window of the water bus. The weightlessness in the pit of her stomach. The feeling of savage joy that in the midst of pursuit and in the face of certain disaster, such a marvellous thing could happen. The dawning realisation that they were coming down directly into the path of an oncoming patrol boat. For a moment it looked as if it would ram them, but then the wheelman began to turn the craft away, and they hit the water with a bone-shaking splash and passed under its jutting prow so close that Longlost had to duck to avoid hitting her head. "Hard left!" screamed Longlost, and they leaned together, and the pinwheel skidded through the choppy water in a tight arc, and finally they straightened up, and Longlost slowed the pinwheel for a moment alongside the high blank wall of the building that edged the eastern arm of the crossway. Emily looked behind and was relieved to see that Aaron and Sam were not far behind, having taken a less dramatic route that had taken them into the centre of the channel rather than crossing both streams of traffic. Behind them was a mess of snarled traffic with boats at all angles as the patrol boats tried to force their way through. A cacophony of horns and sirens filled the air. One of the pike boats was already through and weaving its way towards them. "Go, go!" cried Emily. Longlost throttled up and they roared off once again. Not far ahead there was another set of lights as the side canal crossed main canal, but this time they were in the fugitives' favour, and they made it across without any difficulty. Siren wailing, another patrol boat peeled off from the waiting traffic to the right and took up the chase. Once they had left main canal behind, the traffic on their side canal dropped to almost nothing. The high buildings on either side left them in shadow, and Emily felt a sudden chill. Aaron brought his pinwheel up alongside, and Sam grinned at her. Behind them she could see several pike boats just ahead of the leading patrol boat, its flashing red light illuminating the walls around them like a warning. Emily was puzzled by the fact that the pike boats behind them seemed to be matching their speed to the patrol boat. Surely they were able to go faster. Why were they holding back? A suspicion began to form in her mind. As they rounded a bend in the canal, the suspicion became a certainty. Ahead of them, stretched across the canal, was a blockade of patrol boats. There was only one way out, a narrow canal leading off to the left. "It's a trap!" Emily screamed to Longlost. "We're being herded!" "No choice!" yelled back Longlost. "Hold on!" The two pinwheels curved left and entered the dark mouth of the side canal. It twisted and turned, making it impossible to see what was up ahead. Several pike boats followed close behind, the canal being too narrow for the patrol boats to navigate. Suddenly the canal opened up into a strait, and they saw what awaited them. The wardens had been busy. A large net was stretched completely across the water ahead, attached to old gateposts either side, reaching up from the surface of the canal to high above their heads. The pike boats were closing in behind, forcing them into the nets. Emily closed her eyes. There was nowhere to go. And that's the end of chapter 17. Good night.